So these contract extension talks are actually giving me a bit of content, so that's cool. Although it's potentially giving certain fans of teams headaches. And one of those could be the Pacers fans, because now they got to deal with this Sabonis-Turner thing, which granted is something that's been talked about by a lot of people, me included. The speculation of can you really play with both of these guys, and that's a whole nother thing. That's just X's and O's basketball talk. But now we've got Sabonis with a quote, which is him saying, "I know exactly how the Pacers feel about me now. They know how I feel about that. There's not much more to say. I'll let my agents do the rest of it. We'll see what happens." Not exactly a glowing quote about Sabonis' feelings towards these contract talks. And whatever he thinks he's worth and whatever they think he's worth, I don't know. I mean, the Pacers hope that he can be a 4 next to Turner, and Sabonis doesn't care about that. He's just going to be like, give me my damn money because I'm really good, which is what he's supposed to feel like. You know, that's how this all goes. Now, of course, the one thing with this is it's restricted free agency, right? So even if the Pacers did not come to an agreement with Sabonis, it doesn't mean he's gone. Doesn't mean you have to trade him. I mean, I don't know what he would get on the open market. I'm assuming nobody would give him a max, so there's a chance that the Pacers would be able to match it and it wouldn't be too crazy. But there are some fears with letting it get to that. One is just like, you want Sabonis all in when the season starts. I mean, if you've if you haven't agreed to something and then he's like 85% invested and 15% thinking about, oh, what's going to happen next, well, that makes your team worse right away. So, I think the first question is like, how good do you think Sabonis really can be? I mean, to me, if you're playing him at the center position and you're hoping that defensively he doesn't suck, he can maybe be a guy who can give you, I don't know, like 16 and 12 or something, you know? Finishing, a lot of offensive rebounds, setting screens, a couple post moves here and there, the hope that he can be a shooter. I think that's like a pretty good thing to hope for with him. Maybe you're lower on him than me, maybe you're higher on him than me, I don't know. But that's what I see Sabonis as. So for me, I'm looking at that and I say, okay, you're probably worth something between $15 to $20 million a year for however long. Now, if you want to say that you should not give him that because his defense is never going to be good enough, I mean, you might have a point. I don't think he's a bad defender, but I don't think he was the reason why the Pacers' defense was so good last season. That was mainly Miles Turner and Thad Young. But even so, in minutes that Sabonis played without Thad or without Turner, which granted he barely ever played with Turner, but when he didn't play with Thad, there's still some positive lineups in there. And for what it's worth, when he did play with Thad, the Pacers were like plus $1 million, which could suggest that if you pair him up with a good defensive 4 who is not going to clog the paint, then you might have something. So that's probably something to care about, I guess. Anyway, do we talk about teams that could be interested in Domantas Sabonis in my imaginary NBA? I mean, the obvious one is the Celtics, whether it's Jalen for Sabonis, whether it's a whole bunch of stuff for Sabonis. I don't know. That's a conversation that's been had, including in my Twitter mentions, to the point where I was kind of overwhelmed by everything that was being said. So whatever, I don't know. If we look at other teams, it's kind of weird because the center position, while you could say that it's being kind of like swept to the side, a lot of teams have centers that I think they're pretty okay with. Now, there are some teams who I think would love an upgrade, whether it's the Warriors, for example, but like, do the Warriors have assets to get Sabonis? Like, what is a realistic trade package for Domantas Sabonis? Is it making the salaries match and then a protected first-round pick? Is it a legit good right-now player? I don't know. I mean, the market decides all that stuff, of course, but like, the Warriors would love to have him, no doubt about it. But what would a move even be? I mean, they've still got a few of their own firsts, so that could be the thing that gets you into the table. But then it's like, what players do they have that the Pacers would really be excited for, you know? One that I've seen on Twitter a little bit is San Antonio, with the idea of they just need players in general, but also Pop could just do a really good job with a guy like Sabonis who's so good at scoring around the rim. The thing with that, though, is they've been playing Aldridge at center, and they got Jakob Poeltl, who I think is good and could be one of the better to best defensive bigs at some point. So, a bit of a logjam. There are a few other ones that I think are a little interesting. The thing is, the teams are not good, so that makes draft picks a lot more fishy. But, two specific, the Wizards and the Cavs. In the case of the Cavs, it's young dude. Well, Sabonis is not like super young. I'm pretty sure he's in his mid-20s, but you know what I mean. With Garland and Sexton, and that's just kind of what we've got for however long. In the case of the Wizards, they have few ways of actually improving their team because of Wall and Beal's contracts, although Beal is good, so that's fine. And I think Sabonis is just better than Thomas Bryant, so that could be something. I've seen the Hawks talked about a little bit. The fear there is like Collins, how good is he defensively? He's got the potential to be good on defense, but up to this point, has he really done it? And then Sabonis, who could be good on defense, could be okay. You know, you put those two together with already having Trae Young, who is like 4 feet tall. That could be, you know, the recipe for disaster defensively. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm seeing, and I'm sure there's other things that I'm just not catching in terms of like, oh, this team could actually make a case for taking on Sabonis and whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's another one of those like how valuable really are centers nowadays things, and all that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they could come to an agreement by Monday. I guess another interesting thing would be like maybe Sabonis is just meant to be a sixth man. Like a super efficient, advanced stats would suggest he's actually like incredible sixth man, you know? But I don't know. That's a whole nother thing too.